This is the W5SC repeater, PL110.9. Afterglow Movie Net, Saturday, 10:30 p.m., W5SC.
This is N5BB. I'll be starting Skynet here in about 6 minutes. If you need to use the repeater, please do so within the next 5 or 6 minutes. Thank you. This is N5BB.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
This is N5BB, November 5, Bravo, Bravo. My name is Bill. I'll be your net control station for this station of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, your comments, and your suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using your pro words break, break in your call sign. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without directions from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to identify at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station identification or Echolink node 37247. And I am monitoring Echolink if you want to check in over there on text if you can't use voice. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for a complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check in the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in for Skynet. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry if you want to check in on voice or on Echolink chat. We will continue to do that. So far, we have 5 people that have checked in, including me. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long, structured in several parts, which I will whiz through. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening by the net control station, What's Up, which you can see in the nighttime sky, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, and if there are any astronomical questions and answers. And then we say 73, we leave. All amateurs are licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to a check-in. Currently, the following people are checked in on the web form, which you can find at w5fc.org. K5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi. K5MCD, Cody in Dallas. N5BB, that would be your net control, Bill in Irving. WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. KF5JHA, which is Bob the Cat, and Riding Shotgun Chaz in Mesquite. WD5DPX, Bobby Joe in Wills Point. So that's the people that have checked in so far using the app Skynet, which you can see at w5sc.org. Now let's start with voice check-ins here on RF. We'll do Echolink in just a few minutes. So right now, RF, short-time check-ins. If you can't stay very long, please check in now. Please come now with your name, your call sign, your name, and your location. Your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, looking for Echolink, looking for RF short-time check-ins for Skynet. One more try. Any short-time check-ins to Skynet? Nothing heard. Now let's look for general RF check-ins. If you have not checked in on the web form and you'd like to check in the RF, please come now. Please give us your call sign, your name, and your location. Skynet, this is N5BB, looking for RF check-ins.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, downtown Dallas, portable.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power.
Alpha Bravo 5 Delta Mike Dustin in Dallas.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot Virginia in Fort Worth.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton. Kilo Foxtrot 5 Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
This is Alpha Golf 5 Papa Mike Rich in Rockwall, AG 5 PM.
Okay, let's pause there. I recognize Gus, W5GUS, Ted, WB4MFI, Dustin, AB5DM, Virginia, NV5F, James, KG5WDL, Bill, KF5ZBL, and Rich, AG5PM in Rockwall. Do we have any other RF check-ins for Skynet? If so, please come down. Maybe a slightly slow night. Let's look over at Echolink. Let me see. Who hasn't checked in yet? So let's see. Bobby, WD5BPX. Do you want to check in on voice?
This is WD5BPX. You've already got me on the login. I did a login from my website.
Thanks, Bobby. I just realized that. I got more than one list here. Let's see. Next I have K5AMS. Mike and Richardson. Mike, do you want to check in on voice? Nothing heard. Mike, I'll assume you're listening. I'll check you in. Okay, that's everybody from Echolink. And, Mike, K5ANS. I now see you over on the web form. So you're checked in. I've got you both ways. Okay, do we have any other check-ins via any mode for Skynet? This is N5BB, net control. Okay, nothing heard. Now let's start with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be amateur radio related, astronomical, space, anything which would be of general interest to licensed hams. If you have anything, please come now with your call sign only. This is Skynet, N5BB, net control, looking for general interest news. Oh, we may whiz through things. Nothing heard. I will mention that the Irving Amateur Radio Club Echolink node, WA5CKF-R, is going to be going down this evening, sometime between 10 and midnight. And we hope to have it active again in a different location, but with the same login information, sometime tomorrow. It may be afternoon. We don't really know. So if you need to use the Echolink node on the Irving repeater, please realize that late tonight, overnight, and tomorrow morning it probably will not be available. So let's see. AMSAT, the Radio Amateur Satellite Group, has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT net. And it'll bring you all up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. To do that, you go to Echolink, search under groups for asterisk, AMSAT asterisk. There's also a live audio link on their website, www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston. And 2 nets are available locally here in Dallas, and encourage check-in. They're the AMSAT East net. This is on this repeater, 146.88, every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m., except when there's a club meeting, which is this coming Tuesday. So there will be no AMSAT net on this repeater this coming Tuesday. But normally, it will be there at 8 p.m. on Tuesday. On Wednesday at 9 p.m. every week, there's a similar AMSAT net on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club hosts a lot of nets Monday evenings at 7 p.m. On the first Monday, I'm not looking at it. I believe it's Ham Fixings Net. So it'll be Ham Fixings Net about food. This is coming Monday at 7 p.m. on this repeater. And then on Saturdays we have the Night of Nets, Every Saturday evening starting at 7 p.m. we have TechNet, talking about technical things and news. We have Skynet, that you're listening to now, from 9 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., talking about astronomy, space, and space exploration. And then at 10:30 every Saturday evening, we have Afterglow Movie Net. And there we talk about a movie which is often a bad science fiction movie, but sometimes it's a good movie. And the movie this evening, well, hold on. My notes were across the room. The movie this evening is a 1988 movie, Space Mutiny. We view the Mystery Science Theater 3000 version, which originally aired in November of 1997. Tom, K5ICX, do you want to describe this fine movie, Space Mutiny, that we're seeing this evening? K5ICX, this is N5BB, Skynet in progress.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. This is KE5ICX. I'm afraid I'm going to give it too much of a positive spin, but here we go. Captain DeVere stared at the Southern Sun's console controls. The four-way flashers were still flashing away. They'd done so for about 100 light years, and no one seemed to notice. Not anyone on board, and no passerbys either. But that was life on a generation ship. One group born, another to die, all under the continuous blinking of the four-way flasher system. DeVere wondered if he could change the flashers from four-way to directional indicator, a fancy term for activating the right turn blinker. Well, in the end, it didn't matter. Someone finally took notice of the SS's issues. It was pirates from the Corona Borealis system who eyed the ship through their Edmund Scientific Interstellar Spyglass, trademark. It would only be a matter of time before the space pirates boarded the vessel and started eyeing their way around the ship. Join us for Space Pirates Day, Saturday, May 3rd at 10:30 p.m., in other words, tonight, Space Mutiny from 1988. Our version is the aired MST3K version and is considered one of the top 5 episodes from the Lampoon series. And boy, did it need it, but you'll watch Rome burn in this version. That's it, Bill. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. If you enjoy looking at a movie with some robots, and other creatures down, shielding you from the very bottom of the frame, then you'll love this. This movie I read was filmed in it was a decommissioned asbestos factory in South Africa, and it is. When you see this movie, you wonder, how in the world can they carry all that huge amount of metal, these big, huge boilers and tanks? There's tanks of methane everywhere. Everywhere you go, you're going to trip over a tank of methane. I'll tell you, it would be horrible to be in a spacecraft with all this stuff. And by the way, there's artificial gravity, I guess. Nobody's weightless in this spacecraft. Okay. We're doing that at 10:30, the Afterglow Net. And we usually go to just nearly midnight, believe it or not. You can choose not to believe it, but listen, we usually keep going and going and going. Okay, next for nets. On the first and third Sundays of each month, we have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. This is at 7 p.m. So we will have one of those tomorrow night. at 7 p.m. At 8 p.m. on this repeater, we will have the Races training net, which means you can listen but don't transmit unless you're an authorized Races station at the proper time. So, a lot going on tomorrow night on this repeater, and then again, back at 7 o'clock again on Monday night. Every night of the week, there is a National Traffic System training net. This is for message traffic, radiograms. It meets at 6:30 p.m. Central Time on this repeater. Except for the first Tuesday of the month, when we have the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting. So Dallas Amateur Radio Club will be meeting at 7 p.m. At 6 p.m. for the board meeting, at 7 p.m. for the membership meeting this coming Tuesday. So there will be no National Traffic System net on this repeater. Instead, it'll be moved over to the Irving 146.72 megahertz repeater. And at 9:30 p.m. every evening, the late traffic net is on the WA5CKF Irving repeater at 146.72 megahertz. That's every evening. So that's what's going on with nets on this repeater. Let's see if there's any additional check-ins. Do we have any additional check-ins via any mode to Skynet? This is N5BB net control. From the web check-in list, I would like to recognize Clay, N5OS, who is in Mesquite. Clay, N5OS in Mesquite, and Dale, N5LIG, who is in Little Elm. Do we have any additional check-ins before we continue with Skynet? Next, we have Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, if Bob the Cat allows you to, can you transmit and give us the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events? KF5JHA, this is N5BB.
Well, Bob's still asleep, so I hope this works. So, last night on, on May the 23rd, is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. I'm not sure who the featured speaker of the topic is. I'll have to look that up before next week's Skynet. Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Now, on the first Saturday of the month, which is tonight, stargazing is held at Fairview. Now, do we have a ham radio operator at the stargazing that would like to make the report? Come now with your call sign. I know several different ham radio operators that are probably out there. And they're looking at the moon and Jupiter and Mars and some star clusters and maybe even a galaxy or two. So, okay, they're probably busy talking to the public. They could have over 100 people there sometimes. You can check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. This is KF5JHA, back to our net control N5BB.
Well, thank you, Chaz. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. Next, we have National Space Society events and activities. I happen to be the Vice President and the Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter. The National Space Society is a non-profit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. The big event each year for the National Space Society is the International Space Development Conference, ISDC. The next ISDC will be held in Orlando, Florida, June the 19th to 20th. June the 19th through the 22nd of this year. And I will be there. So if any of you will be there, let me know. Be glad to join you there. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. Our last meeting was on April 13th, and the topic was the Europa Clipper mission, presented remotely by Dr. Tracy Becker of Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio. Very interesting spacecraft going to the moon of Jupiter. The next chapter meeting will be held on Sunday afternoon, May the 11th. That's a week from tomorrow. Our presentation topic for the meeting is not yet known. Our meetings are also available virtually using WebEx. Contact Bill N5BB if you'd like to attend in person or virtually. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. On the last Friday evening of each month, at 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. 7 people attended the April Space Rendezvous event, and we've had many meetings have had 10 or more attendees. The next Space Rendezvous event will be held on Friday, May the 30th. It's always the last Friday of each month. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill N5BB, that's November 5 Bravo Bravo, at his listed email address on QRZ, or you can use space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net. End of news. Next, we're getting ready to do astronomical discoveries. Before we do that, do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB looking for check-ins. Okay, I don't see anybody new on Echolink or the web form. So next, let's go to Brenda for recent astronomical discoveries. WB50ZL, this is N5BB. Go ahead, Brenda.
Thank you, Bill. This is WB50ZL with an article entitled New Look at Galactic Regions Surrounding Our Solar System, Lyman Alpha Emissions. The NASA New Horizons spacecraft's extensive observations of Lyman alpha emissions have resulted in the first ever map from the galaxy at this important ultraviolet wavelength, providing a new look at the galactic regions surrounding our solar system. The findings are described in a new study authored by the SWRI-led New Horizons team. Understanding the Lyman alpha background helps shed light on nearby galactic structures and processes, said SWRI's Dr. Randy Gladstone, the study's lead investigator and first author of the publication. The research suggests that hot interstellar gas bubbles, like the one our solar system is embedded within, may actually be regions of enhanced hydrogen gas emissions at a wavelength called Lyman alpha. Lyman alpha is a specific wavelength of ultraviolet light emitted and scattered by hydrogen atoms. It is especially useful to astronomers studying distant stars, galaxies, and the interstellar medium, as it can help detect the composition, temperature, and movement of these distant objects. During its initial journey to Pluto, New Horizons collected baseline data about Lyman alpha emissions using the ALICE instrument, and SWRI developed ultraviolet spectrograph. A spectrograph is a tool astronomers use to split light into its various colors. ALICE specializes in the far ultraviolet wavelength band. After the spacecraft's primary objectives at Pluto were completed, scientists used ALICE to make broader and more frequent surveys of Lyman alpha emissions as New Horizons traveled further from the Sun. These surveys indicated an extensive set of scans in 2023 that mapped roughly 83% of the sky. To isolate emissions from the galaxy, New Horizons team modeled scattered solar Lyman alpha emissions and subtracted them from the spectrograph data. I'm going to reset. The results indicate a roughly uniform background Lyman alpha sky brightness 10 times stronger than expected from previous estimates. These results point to the emission and scattering of Lyman alpha photons by hydrogen atoms in the shell of a hot bubble known to surround our solar system and nearby stars that was formed by nearby supernova events a few million years ago, Gladstone said. The study also found no evidence that a hydrogen wall thought to surround the Sun's heliosphere substantially contributes to the observed Lyman alpha signal. Scientists had theorized that a wall of interstellar hydrogen atoms would accumulate as they encountered the edge of our heliosphere, the vast region of space dominated by the solar wind as it interacts with the interstellar medium. However, the New Horizons data saw nothing to indicate the wall is an important source of Lyman alpha emissions. These are really landmark observations in giving the first clear view of the sky surrounding the solar system at these wavelengths, both revealing new characteristics of that sky and refuting older ideas that the ALICE New Horizons data just doesn't support, said co-author and New Horizons principal investigator Dr. Alan Stern. This Lyman alpha map also provides a solid foundation for future investigations to learn more. All right, this is WB5OZL, turning it back to the net.
Very good, Brenda. I don't see any additional check-ins on Echolink or the web form. Does anyone want to check in to the net? And if you want to check into Skynet, please come now. Put your name, your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, Net Control. Okay, let's now go to the discussion topic of the evening. It's a rather provocative title. Can there be sound in space? Ooh. This is from Scientific American online, and the article was written by Phil Plate. It seems contrary to common knowledge, but sound can travel through some parts of space quite well. In space, no one can hear you scream. That now classic tagline from the movie Alien, one of the great science fiction horror movies ever made, hinges on a big assumption that most of us broadly make. Space is empty. And it is, mostly. But there is stuff out there between the stars. And in some cases, there's enough of it to make a little noise over. So maybe we should amend that line. In space, no one can hear you scream, unless, that is, you scream loudly enough and in the right place. What we think of as sound is really just a vibration that travels through some sort of material, what scientists call a medium. The music I'm listening to right now as I write these words is just such a vibration, created by electricity pulsing through magnets inside my computer's speakers. The magnets drive a membrane that rapidly wiggles back and forth, pushing on the surrounding air. This creates waves, usually called sound waves, but more technically known as acoustic waves, of slightly compressed and decompressed air that travel to my ears. And finally, within my inner ear, another membrane vibrates in response and sends signals to my brain, which interprets them as music. Acoustic waves travel through a medium by causing the atoms or molecules in it to successfully bump into each other. For my music, that medium is air. But you can also hear sounds underwater or through solid matter if you put your ear to it. The waves travel through these materials a bit differently than they do through air because of differences in composition and density. But the principle is the same. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet, sponsored by the Dallas Image Radio Club. If space were truly empty, an utter vacuum, devoid of any matter, then yes, the alien slogan would be unquestionably correct. And in general, it's true. By human standards, space pretty much lives up to its reputation. Human standards are not a great basis for comparison, though. Understanding why requires some basic order of magnitude numerical thinking about the varying amounts of sound-sustaining stuff in space. Let's just use the word particle as a generic term for this material. It can refer to any sort of individual unit of matter, an atom, a molecule, a subatomic particle, whatever. With that in mind, let's ask, how empty is empty? A laboratory vacuum chamber, for example, might contain 1 trillion particles per cubic centimeter. That's a volume of about 1/4 of a typical 6-sided die per cubic centimeter. That may seem like a lot, 1 trillion, but it's a particle density tens of millions of times less than that of the air you're breathing, which has tens of quintillions of molecules per cubic centimeter. Yet, as relatively empty as that lab vacuum chamber may be, space makes it look like soup. Interplanetary space is far more rarefied, with just a few dozen particles in each cubic centimeter. That thin gruel can reach up to more than 1 million particles per cubic centimeter if the sun blasts out a solar storm. But even then, it's less substantial than all but a handful of ultra-high vacuums achieved on Earth. This is N5BB. This is Skynet. In the space between stars, the interstellar medium is even thinner, with as little as 100 particles per cubic meter are an average 0.0001 particle per cubic centimeter. Intergalactic space, the true deep space between galaxies, has an average of 1 particle per cubic meter. It's between galaxies. Scream all you want. No one will hear you through that. By now, you probably appreciate that not all space is evacuated equally. In nebulas and other celestial regions, matter's thicker. The typical density for brilliantly illuminated gas cloud, like the Orion Nebula, is around 10,000 particles per cubic centimeter. The density in other locations can be quite a bit higher, however. Barnard 68, for example, is a small, cold, dense, molecular cloud that has roughly 1 million particles per cubic centimeter. That's much lower than a lab-grade vacuum. Yet across vast expanses of space, even very low particle densities can add up. So Barnard 68's tenuous material is still enough to absorb essentially all the light that would otherwise pass through it. Some giant molecular clouds can have dense cores that can spike to 1 billion particles per cubic centimeter. Even then, your shout wouldn't get far. There just aren't enough particles to bump into each other to transport the acoustic wave. If you want sound to move through space, you need a much louder source that operates over vast volumes. An exploding star, for example, blasts out huge quantities of material into space at exceedingly high speed. That ejecta slams into so much of the interstellar medium so hard that sufficient numbers of particles strike each other to make an acoustic wave. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. The speed of that wave depends on the density of the medium. But in a typical nebula, it's about 10 kilometers per second. That's much faster than the lower than 1 kilometer per second speed of sound in air on the Earth. So it's speedy for us Earthlings. The material from an exploding star leaves that in the dust, so to speak. It plows into the surrounding gas at literally supersonic speeds. This generates shock waves, much like a fighter jet emitting a sonic boom. The ambient material around the exploding star is compressed by the shock waves, creating the lovely filaments and ribbons of gas commonly seen in a supernova's expanding cloud of debris. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. Somewhat surprisingly, the speed of sound in a nebula isn't just a matter of arcane astrophysics. It turns out to be important to our very existence here on Earth. When a dense clump of gas and dust in a molecular cloud collapses, it flattens and shapes itself into a disk around the newly forming star. A very rough estimate of a typical density for such a disk is tens to hundreds of trillions of particles per cubic centimeter. Denser than a lab vacuum, but extremely diluted compared with, let's say, air. I'd say that qualifies as space, but it's still enough to sustain sound waves, which is critical. If the material is dense enough, it becomes viscous and even turbulent, allowing clumps of material to gradually grow into planets. Those conditions depend on the speed of sound within the disk, and without them, the particles there would tend to orbit the star without giving rise to planets at all. In other words, without sound in space, we probably wouldn't be here to talk about sound in space. That may go against conventional wisdom, but I'm willing to shout loudly enough to make my voice heard about it. Okay, does anyone have any questions or comments about tonight's presentation? If so, please come with your call sign. This is N5BB, and this is Skynet. We have any additional check-ins? Okay, and now it's time for What's Up? What do we see when we look up outside at night, Chaz? At least it's clear, finally, after a week of cloudiness. KF5JHA, this is N5BD. What's up, Chaz?
Thanks, Bill. Slide Master, slide number 2. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. We call this segment of Skynet What's Up, because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the past couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and maybe a bit beyond. Slide Master, slide number 3. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your two eyes. But when it goes nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. I can see the North Star with just my two eyes from my very light-polluted location in Mesquite. Slide Master, slide number 4. This image is from today, Saturday, May the 3rd, spaceweather.com. It's of the sun. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you could use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. Now, today is one of those days. Tomorrow, go take a look. If you have your solar eclipse glasses, go out and take a look at the sun. It's supposed to be clear. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. I've talked about the solar eclipse cycle about 3 months ago here on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5. The moon was new on April the 27th, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. Tomorrow, on Star Wars Day, may the 4th be with you, is the first quarter moon phase. On May the 10th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 406,244 kilometers. On May the 12th, the moon is full. On May the 20th, the moon is at its third quarter phase. On May the 25th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 359,022 kilometers. On May the 26th, the moon is new. Slide Master, slide number 6. On May the 3rd, oh wait, that's today, the moon, Mars, and the star cluster M44, also known as the Beehive star cluster, are in conjunction in the western evening sky. You can go out there and look at it right now. You can wait till after Skynet is over. Slide Master, slide number 7. So, on Star Wars Day, May the 4th, the planet Mars and M44, also known as the Beehive star cluster, are in conjunction and even closer than tonight in the western evening sky. In fact, Mars and M44 can be in the same field of view in a telescope. Wow. Slide Master, slide number 8. On May the 5th, that's on Monday, the western evening sky, you can observe the conjunction of the moon and the bright star Regulus. Slide Master, slide number 9. On May the 10th, the moon and the bright star Spica will be in conjunction in the early morning sky. Slide Master, slide number 10. On May the 14th, the moon and the bright star Antares are in conjunction in the early morning sky. And Slide Master, slide number 11. On May the 22nd, the moon and the planets Saturn and Neptune are in conjunction in the early morning east-southeastern sky. You'll need a telescope to see the planet Neptune. And this is KF5 JJ, and this is Skynet. Now, slide number 12. Do any of you out there in Radioland have a question or need a fill on any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Nothing. Looks good at slide 13. So as the moon wanes in a couple of weeks, so do these words from this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live, at least right now. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in just a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet transmitting on the W5FC repeater on 146.88 megahertz. Now back to our net control, N5BB.
Thank you, Chaz. I don't see any new check-ins. Is anybody that would like to check in to Skynet? If so, come now. This is N5BB, net control. Next, we have space exploration and space history. Tom, I think it's your time tonight. K5ICX, this is N5BB. Tell us about Jupiter and the Juno mission.
Well, thank you, Bill. And this is KE5ICX, the Space Exploration Space History segment put together by Brenda, WB50ZL, and myself, with a little help from some archive stuff that we've done in the past. So let's get started with space exploration news. NASA's Juno mission gets under Jupiter's and Io's surface. New data from the agency's Jovian orbiter sheds light on the fierce winds and cyclones of the gas giant's northern reaches and volcanic action on its fiery moon. NASA's Juno mission has gathered new findings after peering below Jupiter's cloud-covered atmosphere and the surface of its fiery moon, Io. Not only has the data helped to develop a new model to better understand the fast-moving jet stream that encircles Jupiter's cyclone-infested North Pole, but also revealed for the first time the subsurface temperature profile of Io, providing insights into the moon's inner structure and volcanic activity. Team members presented the findings during a news briefing in Vienna on Tuesday, April 29th at the European Geosciences Union General Assembly. Everything about Jupiter is extreme. The planet is home to gigantic polar cyclones, well bigger than Australia, fierce jet streams, and most volcanic body in our solar system, the most powerful aura, and the harshest radiation belts, said Scott Bolton, principal investigator of Juno at the Southwest Research Institute in San Antonio. As Juno's orbit takes us to new regions of Jupiter's complex system, we're getting a closer look at the immensity of energy this gas giant wields. Next up, NASA's SPHEREX Space Telescope begins capturing entire sky. Launched on March 11th, NASA's SPHEREX Space Observatory has spent the last 6 weeks undergoing checkouts, calibrations, and other activities to ensure it is working as it should. Now it's mapping the entire sky, not just a large part of it, to chart the positions of hundreds of millions of galaxies in 3D to answer some big questions about the universe. On May 1, the spacecraft began regular science operations, which consisted of taking about 3,600 images per day for the next 2 years to provide new insights into the origins of the universe, galaxies, and the ingredients for life in the Milky Way. From its perch in Earth orbit, SPHEREX peers into the darkness, pointing away from the planet and the sun. The observatory will complete more than 11,000 orbits over its 25 months of planned survey operations, circling Earth about 14 and a half times a day. It orbits Earth from the north to south, passing over the poles, and each day it takes images along one circular strip of the sky. As the days pass, the planet moves around the sun. Sphere's field of view shifts as well, so after 6 months, the observatory will have looked out into space in every direction. When Spherex takes a picture of the sky, the light is sent to the 6 detectors that each produces a unique image capturing different wavelengths of light. These groups of 6 images are called an exposure, and SpaceX takes about 600 exposures per day. When it's done with one exposure, the whole observatory shifts position. The mirrors and detectors don't move as they do on some other telescopes. Rather than using thrusters, Spherex relies on a system of reaction wheels which spin inside the spacecraft to control its orientation. Hundreds of thousands of Spherex images will be visually woven together to create 4 all-sky maps in 2 years. By mapping the entire sky, the mission will provide new insights about what happened in the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang. And that brief instant, an event called cosmic inflation, caused the universe to expand a trillion-fold. We're going to study what happened on the smallest size scales in the universe's earliest moments by looking at the modern universe on the largest scale, said Jim Zanson, this mission's project manager at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in South California. I think there's a poetic arc to that, he says. Next up are space birthdays. We have on April 27, 1953, Ellen Schulman Baker. By the way, her call is KB5SIX. She was on STS 34, 50, and 71. April 28, 1943, John Crichton. He was on STS 51G, 36, and 48. Next, we have April 28, 1949, Jerome Apt. He's N5QWL, by the way, STS 37, 47, 59, and 79. Then we have Paul Lockhart. He was born on April 28, 1956. He was on STS 111 and 113. And then on April 30th, 1945, Michael Smith was on STS 51L, or the Challenger. On April 30th, 1957, Dwayne Terry was born. He was on STS 109. April 30th, 1976, Victor Glover. He's KI-5BKC. He was SpaceX Crew 1, Expedition 6465, and the Artemis 2 mission yet to fly. Next we have May 1st, 1925 would have been Scott Carpenter. He, of course, flew on Mercury Atlas 7. May 2nd, 1957, birth of Dominic L. Pudwell Glory. He flew on STS 91, 99, 108, and 123. May 2nd, 1975 was the birth of Dorothy Metcalf Lindenberger. She flew on STS 131. And then finally, May 3rd, 1949, Albert Sacco, STS 73. He flew on that mission. Okay, this week in space history, we have the following. On April 27th, 1961, Explorer 11 launched as the first gamma-ray detecting satellite. Gamma radiation makes up the highest energy, shortest wavelength portion of the electromagnetic spectrum. Gamma rays are far outside the visible spectrum and are highly harmful to human tissue. Explorer 11, by detecting gamma rays, gave us a new perspective of the universe, a perspective not achievable with the human eye. I don't have a slide for this. On April 16th, the command module Casper touched down in the Pacific Ocean on 1972. I guess this would be April 27th. I'm not sure. I seem to be missing some of this article. On board were astronauts John Young, Tom Mattingly, and Charlie Duke. The helicopter from the recovery ship USS Ticonderoga picked up the crewmen. Also on board Casper, 209 pounds of rocks and soil from the moon. Then we have on April 29th, 1966, the 64-meter dish antenna dubbed Mars Station was dedicated at Goldstone Station as part of the Deep Space Network, or DSN. A month prior to dedication, the Mars Station received its first signals from Mariner 4, the first spacecraft to closely observe Mars, leading to the dish's antenna's moniker, also known as Deep Space Station 14, or DSS-14. It was the largest disk built for the network to that date, measuring over 200 feet across. Later, two identical antennas were built, one for each of the DSN sites in Spain and Australia. In 1988, the Mars antenna, DSS-14, was upgraded to a 70-meter diameter to increase sensitivity needed to support the 1989 Voyager 2 flyby of Neptune. Since then, modifications have continued to prove useful in our exploration of the solar system. DSS-14 remains in active use at the Goldstone Deep Space Communications Complex. Geochemistry and ranging mission came to an end when this probe impacted the surface of Mercury in a planned collision. The impact marks the final act of this 11-year flight. Launched on August 3rd, 2004, the spacecraft traveled 4.9 billion miles, making 15 trips around the Sun and performing flybys of the Earth once, Venus twice, and Mercury 3 times before settling into orbit around the planet. Messenger is the only second space probe to visit Mercury and the only one to orbit the planet. Orbital operations began on May 17, 2011. During its 4 years in orbit around Mercury, Messenger's instruments yielded a trove of data, including characterization of Mars' magnetic field, a representation of the planet's surface composition and geological history, and the discovery of polar deposits composed of water ice. And then finally, on May 1st, 1949, Gerard Kuiper discovered Nereid, one of the largest and outermost of Neptune's known moons. In fact, Nereid is far enough from Neptune that it takes 360 Earth days to complete a single orbit. I didn't know that. Scientists believe the odd number of Nereid's orbit suggests that the moon may have been a captured asteroid, or that it was greatly disturbed during the capture of Triton, Neptune's largest moon. Kuiper suggests that the name Nereid, after the sea nymphs of Greek mythology, following suit with Neptune and its satellite sea-based mythology namesakes. Among Kuiper's numerous other achievements, he predicted the existence of the donut-shaped region of minor planets and other icy objects outside the orbit of Neptune. This region, named the Kuiper Belt in his honor, is one of the main focuses of the New Horizons missions that launched in 2006 and explored Jupiter in 2015. And that's it, Bill. That's what I've got for space history for this week. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Do we have any additional check-ins? This is Skynet, N5BB, net control. Okay, I don't see anybody new on Echolink or the web forum. Next, we have Chaz again. It's time for Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. KF5JHA. This is N5BB. With probably some comic relief. Take it away, Chaz.
Just to be clear, my last name is not again Chaz again. I'm KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 14. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, such are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations. So Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is actually a twofer. Coma, Berenices, Berenices hair, and Canis, Venatici, the hunting dogs. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 15, the alluded to jokes of the week. Now, the jokes are always sort of related to the constellation, so here we go. Why aren't dogs good dancers? Because they have two left feet. How do dog catchers get paid? They get paid by the pound. Which dog always knows what time it is? Oh, this is an easy one. Oh, come on, someone out there's got it. What dog knows what time it is? That would be a watchdog. Okay, why do bees have sticky hair? Because they have a honeycomb. You know, Coma, Berenices hair. Okay. How does Moses style his hair? With a parting. You know, hair, Berenices hair. Okay. Because of the lockdown. Remember the lockdown a few years ago? My hair has never been longer. But actually, it really started to grow on me. Slide Master, slide number 16. The constellations of Coma, Berenices, or Coma, Berenices, and Canis, Venatici can be found tonight almost directly overhead between the constellations of Boötes and Leo. There are lots of things to take note in these constellations. I'll talk about several things. I initially had about 9 pages of information on these two constellations, but I've cut it down to just a couple of pages. That way we have time for the other segments of Skynet that follows. Yes. Slide Master, slide number 17. Coma, Berenices, or Berenices, was recognized as an asterism which used to belong to the constellation of Leo. Tycho Brahe was the first to recognize it as a distinct constellation. The constellation is one of the few constellations to be named after an historical figure. In this case, it is named after Queen Berenice, the second of Egypt, wife of Ptolemy III. Slide Master, slide number 18. The object known as Millet 111 is the Coma star cluster, which is naked eye visible because it's made up of 5th and 6th magnitude stars. It's a real cluster, and it's not a chance alignment of stars. It's by the designation of Colander 256. The cluster consists of about 80 members scattered across about 5 degrees of the sky. It is 260 light years away. The cluster is one of the nearest open clusters. For many people, the cluster is not just Coma Berenices, it is Coma Berenices. Slide Master, slide number 19. Next is M53, which is a compact globular cluster. It looks like a fuzzy star in an 80 millimeter refractor at 8 power. At 16 power, it has some width, and about 38 power, it is noticeably brighter core, surrounded by faint wispy outer regions. But it will not resolve at all. No individual stars are visible. In an 8-inch telescope, however, it just begins to resolve. More aperture is needed to better resolve it. It can be completely resolved in a 12-inch or larger telescope. Slide master, slide number 20. Another M object, M64, is the black-eye galaxy. In an 80-millimeter telescope, it is just a tiny smudge at an 8 power. It takes on a noticeable elliptical shape at 16 power. In an 8-inch telescope, it has an obvious stellar nucleus. The nucleus is surrounded by a fuzzy oval. The dark dust bands that form across the black eye are not visible as such, but instead the oval is asymmetric, and its one side is cut off parallel to the other long axis of the oval. In a 12-inch telescope or larger, it begins to look like its namesake, a black eye. Slide master, slide number 21. Photographs showing M88 to be a nice spiral galaxy. It is an obliquely angled spiral galaxy similar to M31, the Andromeda galaxy. In fact, Stephen James Amiro, I just met him at the Texas Star Party last week, writes that the astronomer John Malus adeptly described M88 as resembling the Andromeda galaxy depicted in a very small scale photograph. And in a 16-inch stub, I've got one of those, you should be able to see the modeling of M88. It may not be hard to pick out individual dust lanes, but with a 16-inch stub, you might be able to. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 22. Canis Venatici does not have any bright stars, but it does have some interesting stars. It is a small northern constellation that was created by Jonas Helvetius in the 17th century. Its name is Latin for hunting dogs. The constellation is often depicted in illustrations of representing the dogs of Boötes, the herdsman, a neighboring constellation. Corceroli is a constellation brightest star with an apparent magnitude of 2.9 and is a binary star. Corceroli is a binary star with a combined apparent brightness of 2.81. The two stars are 19.6 arcseconds apart in the sky and are easily resolved in small telescopes. The system lies approximately 110 light years from the Sun. Slide master, slide number 23. The messy object M3 is a wonderful globular cluster. You can find it about halfway in between Corceroli and Arcturus. It is easily seen in binoculars, and even in smaller telescopes you can see some of the individual outlying stars. With larger telescopes, 8 inches and larger, you should be able to resolve the individual stars clearly to its core. It is about 34,000 light years in distance. Slide master, slide number 24. The rest of the deep sky objects are beautiful galaxies. M94 is also known as the Croc's Eye galaxy. Yep. It can be found a little bit north of the halfway point between Alpha and Beta Canis Venatici. In a 12 or 13-inch telescope, it appears to be a bright, fuzzy comet. Photographs show a beautiful spiral galaxy, about 14 million light years away. Slide master, slide number 63. The sunflower galaxy. When looking at a photograph, it does not look like a sunflower, but you can find about 1/3 of the way between Corceroli and, I forgot to put in the other one. Once again, binoculars should be able to see a very clear, faint, fuzzy object. In a small telescope, it can be easily found, but in a 10-inch or larger telescope with 200 magnification and good seeing conditions, you can easily see it. It is 37 million light years away. And I've got to talk about the next object, M51. That's on slide master, slide number 26. I was able to image with my C-Star M51 The Whirlpool Galaxy, last week during the Texas Star Party, is a showpiece galaxy located in between the stars of Alcada and Corcaroli. M51 is located just off the handle of the Big Dipper. It can be easily seen in binoculars in a dark sky location. The graceful winding arms of the majestic spiral arms of the galaxy M51 appear like a grand spiral staircase sweeping through space. They're actually long lanes of stars and gas laced with dust. Such striking arms are a hallmark of the so-called grand design spiral galaxies. These arms serve an important purpose. They're star-forming factories, compressing hydrogen gas and creating clusters of new stars. Now, some astronomers think that the whirlpool arms are particularly prominent because of the effects of the close-by encounter with NGC 5195, a small yellowish galaxy in the outermost tip of the arms. The compact galaxy appears to be tugging on the arms of M51, the tidal forces of which trigger new star formation. Hubble's clear view shows NGC 5195 is passing between M51 and the small galaxy appears to have glided past the whirlpool for hundreds of millions of years. Wow. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 27. Now, there are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellations of Coma, Berenices here, and Canis, Venatici, the hunting dogs. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year. And slide master, slide number 28, that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Coma, Berenices here, and Canis, Venatici, the hunting dogs. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I borrow and steal, well, for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week we'll take a look at Virgo, the maiden. There's a lot of galaxies there. That's what we're going to be talking about. And this is KF5JJ Chaz saying good night, 73, and back to our net control in 5BB.
Oh, very good, Chaz. Antonio, AG9SG, I see you on the web form. Do you want to check in on voice to Skynet? This is in 5BB.
Sure, thank you. This is Alpha Golf, 9 Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas, AG9SG. Thank you.
Very good. Good to hear your voice, Antonio. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? This is in 5BB. Okie dokie, it's time for Tom, K5ICX, with Space Launches for the Week. Take it away, Tom, in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And if you don't mind, I'll also give you satellite passes after that, since that comes right after this. We have May 4th, tomorrow, be the launch of Starlink 6-84. This is from Launch Complex 39A, Kennedy Space Center. Starlink V2 mini satellites will be launched into low Earth orbit a little more than 8 minutes after liftoff. The first stage booster will target a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean to land on May 29th. Boy, we jumped ahead, didn't we? May 29th will be the Axiom mission, or AX4. This will launch from 39A as well. This will be the 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. Former NASA astronaut and Axiom Space Director of Spaceflight will serve as commander of the mission. This will be her 5th flight to space and her 2nd time commanding a private astronaut mission. Her name is Shubhanshu Shukla of the Indian Air Force, or IAF. Venatici will be the pilot and astronaut with the Italian Space Research Organization. ISRO will be the pilot on board the SpaceX Crew Dragon. That will be Charlotte Jowitzki-Wenusky, a Polish member of the European Space Agency, or ESA, Astronaut Reserve Class 2022. And then Tibor Kapu will be the Hungarian member of the Hungarian To Orbit, or HUNOR, astronaut program, will serve as mission specialist. These 4 astronauts will spend up to 14 days docked to the International Space Station after launching from Kennedy Space Center on a Falcon 9 rocket. Following stage separation, the booster will target a touchdown in landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral. Then we have in May, no date yet, will be the GPS-3 SB-08 mission. This will be from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch a 8 Global Positioning System 3 satellites built by Lockheed Martin. The GPS-3 Space Vehicle 08 is named in honor of mathematician Katherine Johnson, whose calculations contribute significantly to early human spaceflight. The Falcon 9 first stage booster will target a landing on a drone ship positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. Booster for GOSAT GW. This will be from Tanegashima Space Center in Launch Pad 1 over in Japan. Mitsubishi Heavy Industries H-2A rocket will launch the Global Observing Sat for Greenhouse Gases and Water Cycle, or GOSAT GW, a Japanese Earth observing satellite, roughly 5,300 pounds. The satellite will operate in a sun-synchronous orbit at an altitude of 414 miles. This spacecraft comes with partnership between the Japanese Ministry of Environment, National Institute of Environmental Studies, and Japanese Aerospace Exploration Agency. The 2 primary instruments are total anthropogenic and natural emissions mapping spectrometer, you say that, TANSO-3, and the Advanced Microwave Scanning Radar, AMSR-3. This will be the 50th and final launch of the H-2A rocket. All right, I'm going to skip down. I noticed they've really beefed up all of the launch information now, and it's going all the way through summer, so I'm going to stop there. Just too much stuff all of a sudden compared to last week. So I'm going to skip on down to visible satellite passages. We have the International Space Stations getting some nice passes once again. We have on May 7th a minus 2.5 magnitude at 2118 in the evening out of the south. It will reach 23 degrees at 2120, and it will fall to the southeast at 2120 at 23 degrees. So it'll go into shadow, but should still get a very good pass. May 8th has 2 passes. The first one is minus 2.7 magnitude at 2206 in the evening on the west-southwest, reaches its highest point at 45 degrees at 2210, and it falls to the north-northeast at 2213. Then in the evening at, let me see here, May 8th, did I give the, yes, minus 2.7. Having a little trouble reading this. I think I gave the correct pass. Minus 2.7 magnitude at 2206. I think I gave you the evening one. There's a morning one. Let me give you that one. That's at 526. It's at minus 2.6 magnitude, 526 in the morning. This will be out of the northwest to reach its highest point at 530, and then it will fall to the east-southeast at 533. That is also a good pass. So 1 in the evening, 1 in the morning, May 8th. Look for those. May 9th also has a good pass, minus 3.8 magnitude. This is a goodie. At 2118 out of the southwest, reach its highest point at 89 degrees at 2122, and it will fall to the northeast at 2125. May 10th also has a good pass, minus 3.5 magnitude. That's it at 527 in the morning. reach its highest point at 5:31 at 44 degrees, and it'll fall to the south-southeast at 5:34. And then finally, May 11, we'll have a pass of minus 3.7 magnitude at 4:43 a.m. This will be coming out of shadow, so it'll be pretty much very high in the sky, but it'll be very bright. 4:43 at its highest point, 70 degrees, and it'll fall to the southeast at 4:46 at 10 degrees. Then we have Tiangong, the Chinese space station. A couple of good passes there, not too many, but one May 10th, minus 1.0 magnitude, 5:18 in the morning, reach its highest point at 5:19 at 35 degrees, and it'll fall to the east-northeast. And then the next one will be May 12th, is a good pass, minus 2.3 magnitude. It'll be at 4:55, reach its highest point at 72 degrees at 4:55, coming out of shadow, and then it'll fall to 4:58. So if you're a fan of the International Space Station, you've got a bunch of really bright, good passes coming up next week and beyond. So that's it, Bill, from me. Back to you, KE5ICX.
Well, thank you, Tom. Do we have any late check-ins to Skynet? If so, please come with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB, Skynet, check-ins, last chance. Nothing heard. Nothing new on Echolink or the web form. We have a few minutes, amazingly. We're early. Does anybody have any astronomical questions? Anything about astronomy or space flight that you would like to ask? If so, please come now with your call sign only. This is Skynet, N5BB Net Control. Okay, I got Kilo India 5, but I didn't get the last three letters of your call sign. Please try again. You're very noisy. Kilo Juliet 5, Juliet Alpha Kilo. Next, going for a late check-in. Over. Very good. I copy KJ5JAK. Did I get that right, Nick? Kilo Juliet 5, Juliet Alpha Kilo? Yes, that is correct. Very good. We got you in the log, Nick. Thank you. Okay, do we have any other check-ins or any questions about astronomy or space flight? This is N5BB, last call, Skynet. Okay, very good. This evening we had 20 hams participating on the air on either Echolink or RF or
Normal state.
or some other form of communication. I want to thank all of you who checked in this evening. We hope you join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and other nets for the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. If you'd like to try your hand, send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this net astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, etc., etc. Go to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net, and you'll find various internet resources involving Skynet. Until next Saturday night, this is N5BB,
all my
Bill,
circuits are functioning
closing the net
Afterglow Movie Net.
at 10:29 p.m. Wow, we're slightly early. Tom, K5ICX. What are we going to do for Skynet, for Afterglow? Who's in net control? This is N5BB, clear.
All right, well, thank you, Bill. This is Tom, KE5ICX. I guess I will be net control unless somebody else would like to take it. We'll start in about 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So make your microwave popcorn. You got a minute to spare to do that, and we'll be back at 10:35. This is KE5ICX. Okie dokie, it's time to come back to the radio with your popcorn in hand. Extra butter is always recommended. The salt, plenty of that. And sit down and try not to get the microphone sticky because you're going to need it tonight to talk about tonight's movie, 1988 film called Space Mutiny. If you've been keeping up with where you find this information, which is on the Facebook page, Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow Movie, you'll find the link there. This one is the MST3K, or Mystery Science Theater 3000 episode, number 820, Space Mutiny, which actually was better than the movie itself. The insertions in between during commercial breaks included a time travel story going back to ancient Rome. Unfortunately, we never get much further than the dungeon, where everybody is chained to a wall through the entire episode, until they accidentally knock over a lamp and burn Rome to the ground. But it's very entertaining, especially Bobo, the monkey. So for those who are checking in and did watch the MST3K version, if you find that it's too difficult or causes a migraine to talk about Space Mutiny, we can always talk about the subplot that was MST3K. Okay, this is what it says, and I actually pulled this from the Misty site. It says, the Southern Sun is a generational ship, a spacefaring vessel that contains a large number of people whose mission it is to colonize a new world. Its voyages have been long. So many of its inhabitants have been born and will die without ever living on the planet. This does not please Elijah Calgon. Yeah, that Calgon, not the soap. The ship's head of security. Calgon conspires with the pirates infesting the nearby Corona Borealis system and the ship's chief engineer, McPherson, to change the ship's course. Calgon hatches a plot to disrupt the navigation systems of the Southern Sun, then use his security force to hijack the ship and direct it towards Corona Borealis, thus forcing the occupants of the Southern Sun to submit to Calgon's leadership. Calgon sabotages the ship's shuttle bay just as the brave pilot Dave Ryder comes aboard. This sabotage seals off the flight deck for a number of weeks, which gives Calgon the opportunity to attempt to wrest control. With the enforcers loyal only to him, and with nobody able to leave the ship due to the flight deck being non-operational, Calgon holds the entire population of the Southern Sun hostage. The ship's commander, Jason, played by a fake beard, and Captain Devers enlist Ryder's assistant to regain control of their vessel. Ryder is aided by Jensen's daughter, Leah, and a romance develops between them as they work to dismantle Calgon's plot. The situation is complicated by the presence of a group of mystical women known as the Valerians, who influence the people and events around them. Not really. Okay, just a quick note. It says a prominent member of the Southern Sun's bridge crew is killed during a bar scene in an apparent attempt to make the plot more interesting. However, she is in the next scene, alive and well, at her council on the bridge. No mention is made of any twins, though, to give the movie the benefit of the doubt, she's only briefly seen in the foreground and is not featured again after her death. Serious space footage is all listed from the 1978 TV series Battlestar Galactica. The Satellite of Love crew did not comment on this during the episode, but mention of it was made later on the MST3K section of the Sci-Fi Channel website. The Better Brains Staff apparently did not recognize the footage as being recycled until after the episode aired. In a 2018 Rift Tracks presentation, Mike Nelson quipped, "Yes, we know it's the Battlestar Galactica, you nerds," acknowledging that MST3K missed it, and the reaction from fans that was prompted by the oversight. Okay, and with that, we'll stop because really that's all the plot was, and a lot of laughing. So, we will take check-ins, your call sign, your name, and did you see Space Mutiny in any form. And then, after check-ins, we'll go down the list and ask questions about the plot. Did you like it? Did you hate it? What things did or did not work? Then another round involving the acting and characterization, and a final round, if we're all still awake, talking about the special or not so special effects, music, and other stuff that we may have missed on the first two rounds. So we'll go ahead and get started. I will take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see Space Mutiny from 1988. Here we go.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill and Irving? Yeah, I saw it.
Kilo 9 Alpha Hotel Oscar, Brian in Terrell. Yep, my wife and I saw it.
This is WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas. Yes, I saw this movie.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. I saw the movie, but I didn't really follow it very well.
Okay, let me get those check-ins. I got N5BB, Bill and Irving. Yes, he saw the film. K9AHO, Brian. Yes, he saw the film. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, over in Dallas. Yes, she saw the film. ND5F, Virginia, over in Fort Worth. She didn't understand the film, but she did see the film. That's okay. You're not alone. I'm not sure I understood, or I'm even sure I saw the film. Anyone else want to check in? Please come now.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sir Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this film.
Okay, we teased out one more person, KB9 SOK. Anyone else, and then we'll get started.
Kilo 5, Juliet Alpha.
All right, we got KFIP said WJ near Weatherford. Yes, he saw the film. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. I'm having some trouble with the All-Star link. It could be my connection here. It's cutting in and out a little bit. We'll see how that goes. I may throw Echo Link on and listen in the background, which may cause me to have to turn volume up and down in order to make this thing work. So if there's a delay, be patient. I'm trying to do it so that I don't get feedback along the way if this gets any worse than what it is. But we'll see how it goes. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. We'll talk about plot. So Bill, N5DB, our net control for Skynet tonight. Now you get to talk about our favorite net, which is terrible movies. Well, at least this one might be a terrible movie. Maybe you thought it was great. You tell us, Bill. N5DB, what did you think about Space Mutiny, the plot?
Okay, Tom, this is N5DB. Before I continue, you had one more check-in you missed. It was at the end. It was Nick and McKinney. He's very noisy. His call sign is Kilo Juliet 5, Juliet Alpha Kilo. That's Kilo Juliet 5, Juliet Alpha Kilo. His name is Nick and McKinney. He's very noisy on RF. Did you copy there, Tom?
All right, thank you, Bill. KJ5JAK, Nick over in McKinney. Okay, I've got him checked in. Hopefully we can hear him. I'm having trouble with all of you tonight. This thing is getting worse. Let me see what I can do here in the meantime. I think I got an idea on how to make this work, but everybody's a little rough all of a sudden. The net went fine, the previous net, but it just everything's kind of gone bad on me. So I'll make it work. Bill, N5DB, go ahead. Your thoughts on plot.
Oh, thank you, Tom. This is N5DB. On RF, I hear everybody very well, and you're coming in perfectly well on through the repeater. And the only station that's noisy really is Nick. Okay, this is N5DB. And the movie is Space Mutiny. So Virginia, it was a movie about an attempted mutiny in space. That's all it needs to say. We can hang up, shut up, and go about our normal things. No, we'll talk about it. So my first comment about, let's focus on the plot. I'll leave the crappy computer graphics for later. The name of the spaceship, Southern Sun, is kind of weird. Don't know how they came up with that name, but whatever. One thing that bothered me in the plot, I think twice, they were referring to the location of like the rebel base or something else, and they referred to it as a constellation. Well, as we realize, constellations can be asterisms. They're just orientations of stars in the nighttime sky. And the stars aren't necessarily anywhere near each other. So using constellation as a location when you're going through space is stupid. Anyway, let's see. Again, we'll talk about the Battlestar, the Galactica, and the Vipers later. The plot. So I noticed in the plot they had a transporter. Looks like they copied that from Star Trek. Didn't it look like a Star Trek transporter? They only used it once. It was evidently experimental, and it was automatic. It was the way the guy got out of the exploding vehicle, Viper, without being killed. Other weird, I'm talking about weird things in the plot that were just weird. The captain, or do they call him the commander, whoever, he said they had to reduce the speed dramatically so they could make repairs. Why in the world does a spacecraft have to reduce its speed to make repairs? They can make repairs just fine going at any velocity. They don't have to apply any power to continue to go that velocity. So that makes no sense at all. That made no sense. During the mutiny, when the people on the bridge knew there was a mutiny, they had a party. And then later they showed them back at it again. I think they just played the footage a second time. They were partying during the mutiny. That made no sense. The woman from Beleriand were goofy. They seemed to communicate only via mind communications. They kind of were dressed in these flowing garments kind of draped over themselves, and they seemed to be doing some kind of dance, or I don't know. I don't know what they were doing. Whatever they were doing, it didn't make any sense. At some points in the movie, it seemed like they were trying to help the spacecraft from the invaders and the mutiny. But they weren't very obvious about it, and they weren't very direct about it. And they put them in some big cargo area or something. It was all pretty goofy. It wasn't explained. One of the descriptions of the movie I saw said that that was one of the things they threw in. They filmed it separately, and essentially it's disconnected from the rest of the movie. It's just kind of thrown in with very little dialogue between the Belerians and the crew. They threw it in there just to stretch the movie out a little bit. It had nothing to do with the rest of the movie. On the spacecraft itself, when they make their video calls to other parts of the spacecraft, it's really crappy black and white, poor quality images. You'd think they'd be a little bit better in the distant future. It had to be the distant future. The evil leader is Calgon. He is evil. I don't know why he's so evil, but he's just evil. He doesn't just want to lead a revolt. He wants to kill people. He likes killing people. What's he like doing to them? He has a room. He freezes them and hangs them up. Or he throws them over. They like throwing people over guardrails. He throws them over guardrails, or they fall over guardrails. Or he ejects them out. And he's done this to many, many people. And the guy in charge of the disposal area there was willingly describing it fully to the other people, to the good guys, telling them how many people he killed. What did you say, 75 people or something? This is horrible. I didn't understand that. Why does he have to kill so many people? It's just not going to make him very light. The women, other than the Belerians, which are dressed kind of weirdly with these kind of flowing drapes draped over their bodies, silk drapes or something, the other women wear things, they look like showgirls, or maybe they should be at the Hugh Hefner's house, Playmates or something. They're dressed in these things with bare legs or legs and stockings or something, and they're all dressed in these weird outfits with high heels. This is something I've complained about before. I don't think women in space should be wearing high heels. It sounds like a bad idea to me. This is in Fabibi. They seem to have artificial gravity on the spaceship, and they don't even discuss it. They don't even think about it. No mention of it. It's just there. It's one of those things you're supposed to suspend disbelief. Again, in the area where they do bad things to people, they also torture them. Besides freezing them, and submitting them to laser attack on their teeth, which is pretty weird. They're bad, bad people for no apparent reason. In this future, they have 1980s technology. They have CRTs, see how deep they are, poor quality images, really bad graphics, old-looking 1970s and 80s control buttons and knobs. It doesn't look like the future. It looks like 1980s. The filming location for the thing, this is kind of related to the plot, I guess. It evidently was a decommissioned asbestos factory in South Africa. Looks like boiler rooms, all this metal. You'd never get all that stuff on a spacecraft. Way too heavy and big. So it doesn't look like a spacecraft from the inside. They're the little vehicles that they drive around inside chasing each other. They look like some kind of floor polisher carts with covers thrown on the top, kind of like weird go-karts. They're really goofy looking, have flashing lights. They don't go very, you can walk as fast as one of these. They don't go very fast. And it's just really goofy watching those things. Late in the movie, they have flamethrowers. Bad things to do inside a spacecraft. Number one, shoot your phaser weapons. Number two, flamethrowers. Fire is really bad inside a spacecraft. Do you really want to shoot flamethrowers around? Why do they even have the flamethrowers in there? Who knows? There are methane gas tanks everywhere. All of them have signs that say, danger, methane gas, just so you know what they are. And during several times, they blow them up. Not a good idea. Why would you have so much methane in there? Bad, bad, bad. Again, as you mentioned, the dead woman, Lieutenant Lamont, she gets killed and reappears in the back of one of the scenes. Very poor editing there. And I guess I'll leave everything else for a later discussion. But the plot was pretty bad. It was your basic spacecraft with people living in it for generations, attacked by another group, which they fight back against them, and they fight them back in about 30 seconds and beat them. But there's a mutiny attempt for no apparent reason on board. The guy doesn't like it that he's never been to a planet, so he's going to mutiny. Bad plot. N5BB. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bill, and lots covered there. Well, remember, too, Star Trek had the same problem. Lieutenant Galway died 3 times in the series, twice as a male, the same guy, and then he miraculously turned into a female and then died in that episode. Lieutenant Galway. Remember that name. Let's see, Brian, K9AHO. K9AHO. Brian, what did you think about the plot? I think you said you saw the movie. I'm pretty sure you did. What do you think? From KE5ICX.
Well, my wife and I saw it together, and so I just leaned over and asked her what she thought of the plot, and her response was, "What plot?" So I think I know what she thinks of it. It was interesting. I grew up in the '80s, and so I saw a fair number of these shows that came on, usually on TV late at night, and it had a lot of the things that I remember in common with movies from then. The wide use of synthesizer music, trying to show the best that computers can do, and an too much focus on the computer itself because the computer was novel, so we needed to feature that. I did find that there were a couple of moments within the movie where I think they got the future right, or pretty close to right. When the captain was asking the computer using voice queries, different information, we actually do that now with our phones and AI. The voices are a little bit more less robotic, but I thought that was pretty cool that they saw that ahead of time. Let me go ahead and reset. And as far as the vehicles, those carts were really, really goofy. I told my wife, it's almost as though SpaceX came out with a golf cart that was borrowing heavily from the Cybertruck and the Daleks from Doctor Who and a Zamboni, all in one. I love that they had helmets and those low-speed chases, just riveting. I'm trying to think, a lot of the comments that N5BB made, regarding the appropriateness of all of that machinery for a spacecraft and the gravity, I was thinking that too. So yeah, and that turns me to maybe the real plot, which is that of the MST3K characters. Where we've got our intrepid crew trapped up in space having to watch another terrible movie, and I guess it had a little bit of Stockholm syndrome there, as I was realizing we too we're joining him in that being tortured by the movie, but it was neat to see those characters again. My wife and I really love MST3K, and at Christmas we typically see Puma Man. That's our tradition, and so when I invited her to watch this, her hopes were high. I think they were dashed a little bit. K9AHO.
All right, thank you, Brian, and thank you for those comments. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, what did you think about the plot to our fine film, Space Mutiny from 1988, from KE5I6?
Thank you. This is WB5OZL. Oh my, this is so pathetic. We're on a multi-generational spaceship that we're creating a new civilization somewhere. You don't see children or schools or gardens or parks or anything that would make you think of a city or civilization. Mostly you just had people who fought each other and roamed around this factory. I imagine the actors may have gotten asbestos poisoning from it. I don't know. It looked like maybe the factory wasn't still operational, but it didn't look like a spaceship, that's for sure. They're just trying to stick things together so they can make a movie, and it just doesn't work. It's not coherent, and there's so many things wrong with it. It looked like a 70s workout video. They had all these clothes, 80s clothes and hairdos, things that should never have been created, much less endured. The hair was ridiculous. I couldn't understand it very well. I even read the synopsis on Wikipedia. I still kind of didn't understand it. And I thought it was very muddled and very, it's not clear at all. All right, so I'm going to stop there. This is WB5OZL. Back to Nat.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, what did you think about the plot for Space Mutiny from 1988 from KE5ICX?
Thank you, Tom. Well, everybody kind of said it all, really. It was so distracting, all the 80s clothes, and I mean, and the MSG3 guys make it so funny that I'm usually just waiting for the next joke and have a hard time even paying attention to the plot to something like this because it's just so bad. And then on top of that, you've got all this, all the jokes that are so funny. So yeah, it was kind of all over the place, and I really most of the time couldn't figure out what was going on because it was so distractingly bad, and there was a lot of gratuitous, skin in it, and booty shaking, and other, hot chicks, and their general, lack of clothing, so, yeah, generally terrible, confusing, I don't know, it was just like they ripped off everything from science fiction you possibly could, from, Star Wars to Star Trek, even the names of stuff, there was a ship called Red 3, and there was a rebel base, and there was even a sound effect from Star Wars in it, and it was just like they took everything from the previous 2 decades of science fiction and ripped a bunch of stuff off and tried to make some special effects that looked sort of cool. And they had ships called Vipers. I seem to think there were Vipers in some other show. I can't remember if it was Battlestar Galactica or what. But so anyway, it was just ripping off a bunch of stuff and putting people with big hair in aerobics outfits. And there was that. Oh, wait, there was a comment I wanted to make, but I think it's more of a round 2 comment. But, yeah, it's generally terrible and difficult to follow, impossible to follow. What do you mean by that?
All right, very good. Another vote for impossible to follow. Next up is KV9. Yes, okay, Sean. You saw this fine film. What did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KV9, okay. Well, how I'd like to describe this plot wouldn't be appropriate for the radio, so I'm not going to. It was just, obviously Bill broke it down step by step. He pretty much had everything that was on my list of things that were wrong with this film. Yeah, it was just really, really broken. They started off with a concept that was broken. The whole thing with, the multi-generation, they're supposed to be looking for a place to, land, I guess, eventually, and populate a planet, which, once again, was kind of stolen from, Battlestar Galactica, drifting through space, looking for a place to rebuild. And so they stole more than just the graphics from that show. But then apparently, for some reason, our bad guy knew of a planet, and he wanted to force them to go there. Why they weren't going there anyway, if that was the whole ideal of the ship, they never really explained that. And that's pretty much the gist of the plot. So it makes a little bit of sense now why they had to build all this filler, because there really wasn't anything to work with really there. The whole thing with the Talarians, that now that I hear that was thrown in afterwards, that makes a lot of sense, because it just didn't make a whole lot of sense what they were doing there. It seems like they had the ability to manipulate with some kind of mind control and all that. If they really wanted to help out the captain of the ship couldn't they have just taken over the bad guys and stopped them from doing what they were doing? So yeah, that was completely wasted point. So yeah, that was completely worthless. And then yeah, this bad guy was just so weird and evil. Why would anybody follow him? You know, using a laser on somebody's teeth is torture. I mean, just this whole movie, it almost acted like it wanted to be a comedy almost, but it wasn't. And then once again, because of lack of plot, they had to throw in the Tellurians. They threw in, you know, obviously all the sexuality in it, and you know, threw in all the scantily clad women to fill it. They didn't really add anything to the plot. You know, so it's just completely ridiculous. And everybody's already kind of touched on this, which I think it's funny, because watching the movie, I'm thinking, man, it looks like they're in a factory. And now to come find out it really wasn't a factory. No wonder. And, you know, and I've had this problem with other movies, too. When you're supposedly in a spaceship, but it don't look nothing like what a spaceship would be, it just takes you out of the scene, and you can't really, you know, feel like you're there. You know, even, you know, they typically, of course, the spaceships are always bigger than they should be. But, you know, at least they look like spaceships in most movies, and you can kind of feel like you're there, you know. But when the set, which I noticed is kind of round 3, doesn't look anything like what they're trying to say it is, it's just hard to get into a movie, which affects the plot. And being this has such a bad plot, you know, there was just really nothing to get you into this film. It was just bad all around. But anyway, that's all I got for this round. Back to that. KB9S, okay.
Okie dokie, thank you, Sean. Let's see, next up is Jay, K5BZW. Jay, your thoughts on the plot from KE5I6. KF5BZW, I know you're out there. I thought I heard you. Maybe you gave up for the evening. I'm not sure. You there, Jay?
Tom, this is Inside BB.
Sure, I heard him out there. At any rate, let me move down the list then. I'll put a little asterisk by his name and call on him a little bit later in case I heard things. Nick, KJ5JAK, I believe is your call. It didn't mention to you. I probably should have increased power and improved position. I had kind of a weak signal. We'll see how this goes. If we can hear you. If I can't hear you, I may not be able to respond. So anybody else out there, you may have to do relay. But let's talk to Nick. Nick, KJ5JAK, what did you think about the plot for our fine film this evening, Space Mutiny from 1988?
Tom, I do not hear him. This is Inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. Well, he was kind of marginal into his repeater anyway. I never heard him, so you were the only one that was able to make it out. Nick in McKinney, are you out there? I'll give you one more shot in case we totally mangled your call. Nick in McKinney, please come again. Okay, I don't hear him. A chance to check in or over air. So anyone who'd like to join us this evening, please come to your call sign, your name. Did you see tonight's movie, Space Mutiny from 1988?
This is whiskey, 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato. Bill? I saw the movie twice.
Okay, excellent. We picked up one more. We got W5BLT. So, Bill, you saw the movie twice. I don't think I could sit through it twice. I had a hard time sitting through it once, and you did it twice? Pray tell, why did we watch it twice, and what made it so compelling to you to endure what essentially is a self-induced migraine from KE5ICX?
Well, one of the reasons I did it, I started watching the MS3K, and I love watching that. But I thought I should watch the movie so I would understand their jokes better, and so I watched it twice. I watched the original and then the MS3K version. Those guys made it fun. It was a horrible movie. I don't know if this is the worst one that I've seen, but it certainly ranks in my top 3. The sound effects, I couldn't decide if they were stealing sound effects from Star Wars, Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek. Oh, I know that's probably later on, but it distracted from the plot. The plot was very, maybe one-dimensional. You know, some of the scenes reminded me of, you know, like they had I think the bar scene or, you know, whatever, and like they tried to copy so many movies, and it just wasn't very good, and it was just thrown together, and I appreciate now knowing that they're in a factory. It was funny when the MS3K guys were, you know, when you talk about the rails, and they're shoving people over the guardrails and stuff. I couldn't decide if the movie was trying to be a comedy, because you would think that if you're writing something, you would take your movie more seriously. So yeah, it was just bad, but I had to watch it twice. It was so bad, and it, you know, do the MS3K thing. I forgot how much I liked watching that when it would come on, and so that was fun to go back. I know I say I forgot. It's just been years. Unfortunately, I kind of got out of the habit of it, of watching. So now I'm going to go back and rewatch some of the movies I used to watch. But those guys did a good job and made a very bad movie at least tolerable. So that's all I got. W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. Thanks for your comments on that one. Okay, I'll make my comments known here. A couple of things. I agree with the folks that mentioned that they like the MST3K version. I do too. I enjoyed it immensely. This was pretty funny and enjoyable from the standpoint of the film was terrible, so they made some really good breaks during the movie showing with the whole thing, with the Rome thing, and the Brainiac guy who's being too far away. It made him dumber, and they finally got him close enough so it would work. And I think my favorite was when when the two little robots, they go out and they go chasing each other and they blow up the escape pods. And they talk to Mike, and Mike says, "We have escape pods?" "Yeah, so we can escape." And he says, "Why didn't you tell me about this so we could use them to, I don't know, escape from here?" And of course they blew up the pods, so there was no way they could ever leave again. So I thought that was pretty funny. They had them all along, we didn't even know. Just like on Lost in Space. So there was that. Now, as far as the movie itself, terrible. Absolutely terrible. I had a hard time with it. I was thinking this may be a new bottom. You may have to dig a hole, make it even worse. And this could, again, be, we've had some real candidates, but this could be the worst movie we've ever watched. This had very little in the way of entertainment. It had three directors, as we all know. The one director quit immediately after doing the film, after signing up for the film for a prior commitment. Maybe he was arrested and sent to jail for something he did. I don't know. He should have, from even thinking about even signing up for the film, but he got away. Director number two stuck with it and was fine, except that the final product, once they edited it out, was like 10-minute film, which isn't going to work in theaters. So they brought this guy in to do the one with the dancing girls with the electrified bulbs. But he added that. And they kept all three names, even though I think the other two directors wanted their names off. Only the third director wanted his name in it, and that's because he produced the whatever that was they were doing. So there's that. Very little plot. Who cares about the bad guy? It makes no motivation. The wax sweepers, or whatever those things were ridiculous. The Enforcer 1 and 6, I guess, that blew up, and that was terrible. I guess it's a special effect, but it was laughable as they did this chase scenes. It looked like bumper cars out there, and not even very good bumper cars. They could have used real bumper cars, and it would have been more entertaining, I think. Boy, and the special effects sucked. I mean, the special effects on Battlestar Galactica internally with the Tektronix equipment in that looked better and more refined than the crapazoid IBM PC low graphics and Atari graphics they used in this thing. Even though the movie itself was produced 10 years after Battlestar Galactica, they couldn't hold a candle to what Battlestar Galactica did. Now, they only had a $4 million budget. I think they... No, I take that back. That was another film I watched. Never mind. I take back whatever that was. It was probably made for $4.98 because every bit of it was on that screen. $4.98. So, geez, what do you say about this thing? It was very cheesy, to say the least. It makes me wonder. While I was listening to see if I could figure out what the Star Wars, I didn't find a sequel or anything in here that would suggest that they needed to make this film. Their Predator came out in 1987, maybe that, but Star Wars was obviously the inspiration, and of course Battlestar Galactica, but not really very good stuff. They couldn't meet an eye, meet the minimum requirements for the film, so I don't know. All right. We'll start at the top. It's 11:24. I think we'll get through all three of these. We'll start with Bill, N5BB. Bill, you want to talk about characterization such as it is? This may be a fast round. I don't know. Go ahead from KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom. This is N5BB. Yes. Well, the commander and the captain, or whatever the two guys were, sitting around talking about what they were going to do with their ship, were the most ineffectual people leading a vessel I've ever seen. They're sitting there talking kind of like in third party, not very excited about anything going on, and they're not in there doing things. They're not walking around telling people to do their job. They're not having discussions with people. They're not arguing with people. They're just sitting there having a calm conversation. Oh, yeah, I guess the bad guys are coming. Oh, we got a mutiny. Oh, we got a mutiny. Nobody's excited. So they are both, the directing and the acting there was horrible. They were just, I don't know what movie they thought they were in, but it wasn't a spacecraft with a mutiny on board and people attacking them, and alarms should have been going off, things should have been happening, they should have been making things happen, and they weren't. They were duds. So that's my first complaint. The woman they killed off, that was Lieutenant Lamont. I thought she was pretty good in what she was doing, but they killed her off. And so she was going down to see what was going on down there with turned out to be the bad guys. So she was actually doing something. And I thought she looked pretty good. She presented herself pretty well. She looked like she was professional. She goes down there, they kill her, and then with bad editing, she appears back in the next scene. She appears in the background sitting at her standard location. So that was weird. She should have been a major character in this thing. The plot should have had a big spin around her, and it didn't. It killed her off. Bad mistake. They had the professor. I'm looking for his name. I've got it written down somewhere. The professor that was supposed to be coming in on the spacecraft. Well, I now have lost my note of Professor Spooner. Professor Spooner that was supposed to be coming in. Why was he coming in? Why was he there? What was he professor of? Where was he coming from? He didn't know anything. And then the woman, Lee Jansen, who's the actress's name was Sissy Cameron. She was, for a small amount of time, really sad about Professor dying, but nobody else seemed to care much. And it wasn't a big, I didn't understand. Why was he coming? Why was everybody looking for him? Why did they set that up and then just throw it away? The Sissy Cameron, that's the actress's name, whose character was Lee Jansen. She was the love interest of Dave Ryder, the character name. The actor is Reb Brown. Well, it turns out that Sissy Cameron and Reb Brown were married. They married several years before this movie was made. And they had made several other movies before or after this, did other things. So they were not unknown people. But they were a married couple, actually, during this. And that was a little goofy because at first, Leah Jensen hated him because he didn't seem to care much about Professor Spooner. I don't know why she cared so much. And Dave Ryder was just saying, well, I couldn't do anything. They transported him out of there. And I didn't understand that interaction. Later, they seemed to miraculously get together and be lovey-dovey, and that, I don't know. I didn't understand that change. It wasn't scripted very well. I tell you though, Leah Jansen, that was the character name. Dr. Leah Jansen. What was she a doctor of? Early on, you find out she insisted that Dave Ryder call her Dr. Jansen. What was she a doctor of? Did you see her doing doctoring things? I don't know. Was she around the horticultural area right at the start? Maybe she was a scientist, but they didn't say. So there's a chance there to expand a little bit, but they didn't do any of that. They had to make an action movie. But Dr. Leah Jansen, she did a lot of the action. She actually did climbing around things and shooting guns and although she shot rather badly. She shot Dave Ryder's, floor sweeper or whatever those vehicles were. Like, she was a horrible shot there at the end. But she was pretty active, running around doing things. But that was the only part that was kind of interesting about her character. They didn't tell us anything about her or the backstory. They needed to give us a little bit of backstory. What else? The quote I wrote down was between Dr. Leah Jensen and Dave Ryder. And it's when, she was nearly killed, and he comes, blasting in, and she said, "What took you so long?" And Dave Ryder said, "I've been busy too." I'm sorry, that's about the top level of dialogue in this movie. What took you so long? Well, I've been busy too. That's about the top level of dialogue. I'm sorry, but I'm just funny about that. I think that's all I can say about the characters. Oh, and the evil leader, Calgon, as I mentioned earlier, he was too evil to be believable. He was just over the top, I don't know, psychopathic, I don't know. And the guy with the cane that was kind of helping him was kind of weird. You really didn't know what his allegiances were and what he was doing. And I didn't understand why all those people would follow that. The bad guy, Calgon. Didn't make any sense. So I didn't understand the motivations for all this. And I didn't understand the motivations for the mutiny. They could have asked to be let off of some world or something, but no, why did they want to take over the ship? He wanted to live on a world. I guess he wanted to force himself to be taken there. Anyway, bad motivations. That's all I got for this. Inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. I almost faded away there for a second, but I was listening. Brian, K9AHO, what did you think about our characterization and the acting for our fine film?
Well, Bill really covered a lot of the points that crossed my mind as we were watching it. Two things, though, I wanted to call out. One, the evil Calgon. I think when we were first introduced to him, there was like a full close-up of his face, and just the expressions and the overacting and the maniacal. My wife and I were just cracking up. I think that was probably the highest point of comedy of the whole film. We were just like, no, I mean, okay, the shot's lingering. Yeah, oh, okay, wow. And then as it continued, he would just punctuate anything that he was doing with this protracted maniacal laugh. And it just seemed so out of place. And the people around were not even looking at one another like, what was that? They just kind of expected it. And then thinking about the captain and his first mate, yeah, I agree, Bill. It was the most ineffectual leadership ever. Yeah, it was. I couldn't help but think it was jolly old Commander Adama Kringle, and he was not having a very good time. I'm trying to think if there's any other characters that really stood out. No, but I think those were probably the two main ones, and I'll reserve my time for someone else. K9AHO.
All right, thank you very much. Next is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, what did you think of our fine characters? I know this was one of your favorite movies, so tell us, who are your favorite characters from KE5ICX?
This is WB5OZL. Oh, my favorite were those women and their silly dances. Or what they were for, or anything. I just didn't make any sense. So much of this movie just made no sense at all. I like seeing dead people, because at least we got rid of some of them. But it wasn't enough of that. Mostly they just jumped over railings and ran around and shot each other and rode on their little bumper cars. And they really weren't very interesting. There wasn't any character development to speak of that I could tell. And just a bunch of fighting. And this could have been anywhere. It didn't need to be in space. It wasn't, you know, they didn't even bother to put on spacesuits. I think people just brought clothes from home, especially their exercise clothes. That looked like some of the silly 80s workout themes. And on the hair. Oh, heavens, that hair. I remember the 80s, but I didn't have hair like that. I wouldn't say the acting was great, but, you know, they weren't given much of a chance. Mostly they just shot each other, and that was it. So not much in the way of acting or character development. Never saw any of these people again because they died of asbestos poisoning. And one of the things about a good movie is you care about the people. Didn't care about these at all. Didn't even bother to learn their names or anything about them because I just didn't care. So the movie failed on that point. All right, back to Net, WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. Short and to the point, and that's about correct. Not much in the way of characterization. Okay, Virginia, NB5F. Virginia, do you have any redeeming qualities for any of our characters tonight or the acting abilities of this stellar cast? And notice I said stellar cast, like, you know, stars and space and all that stuff. Go ahead. Or if you can't find anything, tell us what you think about MST3K.
Okay, well, MST3K was great. I do remember seeing this episode when it came out, and the reason I remember it is because of the guy Calgon and them making fun of that, which is such an obvious thing to make fun of. But this MST3K one had a lot of pretty funny stuff in it. I think I appreciate some of it more now that I've, you know, I saw this one when it came out. But I think I appreciate it more because of things like Afterglow. I've seen so many more of the wonders of good and bad science fiction, mostly bad, and definitely, you know, a lot of the references in the Mystery Science Theater stuff come out to me now that I've been around the block a few more times. So yeah, I love that whole plot, and it of course made a lot more sense in the movie. And let's see, everybody was, you know, there was a lot of characters. A lot of them ran together. You know, there was the big-haired 80s ladies, and the one lady who had to dress like an 80s aerobics girl. I'm not sure what that was about. There was the clothes. Different 80s, you know, the costumes were very 80s, and the hair and the makeup, big puffy hair and thin lips were in the 80s, and wide shoulders. We had a lot of that. We had the Santa Claus guy, he seemed all right. We had the guy who looked, they kept saying boy, and I think they were referring to those Energizer battery commercials, because there used to be this kind of muscular sort of punk rock, like a cross between a punk rock wrestler and Billy Idol or something guy on Energizer battery commercials. And I think that's why they kept saying that when they saw that guy with the blonde hair. And Calgon, I'm not even sure which one he was, but maybe he was this guy, but there was a guy in there that kept trying to act. He sounded at first, at the beginning of the movie, like he was trying to be Ricardo Montalban in Wrath of Khan, and then that sort of disappeared. I thought that was pretty dang hilarious. So, yeah, everything was heretofore and stupid and boring and unrememberable, and the 80s-ness of it was pretty funny, and the gratuitous, booty shots and hot chicks were funny, and yeah, it was terrible, and everything sucked, and everyone sucked, and all the characters sucked, and I hated all of them. All of them in D5S.
Oh my goodness. That's probably the worst review you've ever given, and you're laughing hysterically through the whole thing. Well, you got to say something for consistency. It was pretty terrible all the way through. There were no redeeming qualities. It was all bad. So, if you have no expectations, everything's up from there. So, it's amazing. It just all sucks. I love it. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, you get to weigh in on characterization. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I think Virginia nailed it. Character sucked, and so did everything sucked. Review over. Oh, man. To answer Bill's question at the daughter of the, whatever you want to call him, the reason why she was so upset that the scientist got killed was she said that apparently that scientist was the one that trained her to be a scientist. So, that's why. Anyway. Yeah, no, there wasn't any good characters in this. Yeah, maybe the lady who got killed, she seemed like maybe she was putting a little bit of effort into her character. The rest really weren't. Yes, the MS-3K definitely had superior acting, better story. This was one of the better, funnier Mystery Science Theater episodes. Some of them, really aren't that funny, but this one they did a good job with this film. It was pretty well done. So, yeah. If it wasn't for that, yeah, this would have been really painful to watch. So at least we had breaks listening to them. So, yeah, I really have nothing to add. So back to that, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. Let's see, next up will be, I think we lost Jay. KF5BZW. Jay, are you still there? I'll give you a second chance in case you might be. All right, it may have been a figment of my imagination. I'm pretty sure I heard him out there, and he usually sticks around, so, oh well. Okay, next up is Bill, W5DLT. Bill, who is your favorite character in our fine film, Space Mutiny, from KE5ICX?
Well, I don't know that I had one. I couldn't tell if it was Calgon or Calgon, the name of the leader. But it did kind of make me think of the fast soap commercial, Calgon Take Me Away, and I was wishing that these characters, the movie would get taken away, at least on the non-MS3K version. the real movie. You know, it's fun listening to you guys describe the scenery and the costumes and things. Because I obviously miss a lot. So again, you guys fill in all these little details, like being in the factory and things like that. I guess like the character, we've said this, that he was so unbelievable, the evil leader. But it did make me think of whenever he would laugh, it made me think of the scene in the Mike Myers, Dr. Evil thing where they're all kind of laughing. I think they were poking fun at movies like this because it was just so over the top with every time you kill somebody or do something, you just get this laugh, and it's just really bad acting. It was just kind of that way all the way around. And then Lee and Dave getting together, that was just kind of weird. You know, she goes from being this very angry with him to wanting to get together with him, and that all moved really quick. It's just so weird, too, to have everybody sitting at this bar or whatever they were at. I don't know how big this ship was. They never really explained that either. But, you know, everybody's just kind of out having a good time, and they've been blown up, and attacks going on, and nobody seems very watchful about it. So, yeah, the characters, I suppose actors and actresses did what they could with what they had. This was a lot. And the dad as the commander, that was, I don't know. The characters are just, the whole thing was just bad, but I don't know how, as an actor or actress in this thing, you could make it work. And as people said, they killed off the one that seemed like they wanted to do a decent job. So, it's unfortunate. That's all I got. May not have much for the next round. I think I already said what I had accidentally in the first round. But we'll see. W5 DLC.
All right, thank you, Bill. Well, let's see. What can I say about this one? Well, I thought it was really interesting, the illogic that comes from, what was it, the Raiders were coming in on their Cylon battle things, and they blew up a couple of them, and then we're all done, we win, yay, and then they break out the champagne and booze on the battle bridge. I mean, don't they still have armed vessels or armed weapons on board? I don't know. It just seems odd to me that we have to put up with that. But, you know, it just, oh, God, the characters are so superficial and silly, and the evil guy and his maniacal laugh. How many times have we seen that in a movie? It just, it was close to parody of sorts. So, I don't know, maybe if they had made it a comedy, it might have worked. Who knows? But it was not good, no. I think, no, I'm trying to come up with something that really defines this movie, but it's not definable. There's nothing there worth watching. It's just, it's sort of some of the 80s fluff. I know that Tony likes some of the 80s movies. I know Virginia does too, because there's a soft spot in her heart, and that's fine. I have the same thing with 60s stuff for the same basic reason. But this one, you couldn't even pull out the nostalgia parts all that much because there was no plot, there was no characterization per se, and we were going nowhere very slowly, and it just kept going and going and going. The one thing, and it was parodied in MST3K, is people shooting and then jumping over railings and dying. Lots of people dying from jumping over railings. Why we have railings as a safety feature, I have no idea, because nobody seemed to use them. They never actually hit the railings. They went over the railings, like they steeplechased over them. So railings were very helpful. So that even that part wasn't even convincing. The action special effects were contrived and bad. So I don't know. Just, oh, God. At least we had the MST3K part of it. Okay, let's do this. It's 11:51. We're getting tired. I know I'm getting tired. I'm going to go ahead and do my usual, which is I'll take, for final comments, I'll go ahead and take your call sign in the order that I receive them, and we'll go down the list. So we'll do that. Let me go back over to radio. I'm going between Echolink and my radio tonight because my problems with hearing people tonight has been weird. So let me turn this up enough so I can hear everybody, and we'll go ahead and ask for final comments. Please come with your call now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo.
Whiskey 5, Bacon, Hunter, Tomato.
Kilo 9 Alpha Hotel Oscar.
Okay, I've got N5BB, W5BLT, and K9AHO. I'll go ahead and get those three, and if there's anybody else after, I'll ask for another round. So we'll start with Bill, N5BB. What do you got for us? What's your final comments there, Bill?
Okay, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Well, I think I mentioned earlier, this movie was filmed in South Africa, apparently at what used to be an asbestos factory. And it was the worst thing in the world for the inside of a spacecraft. Nothing but metal, and it didn't look like any kind of spacecraft I can imagine. They were crawling and driving around on these hallways and things. It was obviously a building. It was obviously not a spacecraft. I mean, I think we kind of forget this during the movie, but, you know, you wouldn't be driving around those vehicles in a spacecraft. You don't see that on Star Trek or any of these other movies, but you do on this movie. They're in a building, and it's like an industrial factory building. This movie was filmed during apartheid in South Africa. You'll notice there's nobody of color. They're all white, very white. I looked at the credits at the end, and then I did a little more research. The opening titles, and what they call the computer graphics design, and also the Berenices sequences, art director was a woman called Anne Mon, M-O-N-N. She is evidently still around doing some graphics things. This was one of her first movies that she was helping with, and, you know, she went on to do a number of other movies. I know none of them are really A-list movies, like Super Mario Brothers and, you know, RoboCop 2. She was the Macintosh animator, and the Cable Guy, Anaconda. Oh, she was on Contact, uncredited. I didn't know that. Well, that's a little better. The Nutty Professor 2. So anyway, she did some other things, Men in Black 2. Anyway, but this is one of her first things that she did, and so I'm guessing she probably wants to hide this from her resume. Saying, oh, I was young and messing around. And that's all that I have. One thing about this, at the end of the movie, can you remember what's going to happen? I don't have a clue. I've now forgotten how the movie ended because it was so anticlimactic, kind of after they got rid of the bad guys, you didn't really get a good idea for what was really going to go on. Would you want to see any of these characters or the plot continue with another movie? The answer is really simple. N-O. This is N5BB.
No, wait, Bill. The bad guy, the one with the laugh, he looked like he was dead, and he exploded and burned and everything, but he was propped up over on the side, and as we zoomed in slowly on his face, his eyes opened, and then it went to the end. So, gosh, don't you want to see that guy? No, don't answer the question. I already know your answer. N-O. All right. Next up is Bill, W5DLT. Bill, parting shots. Go for it from KE5ICX.
Well, yeah, I couldn't figure out how it ended. I even watching it twice, so I officially want to nominate this one as the worst movie. I know I said I was maybe in the top 3, but after mulling it over, even the 80s costume and reminiscing can't save this movie. So I officially will. It's funny. I didn't like the 80s when I was in the 80s, but I look back on it and fondness now. Weird. Anyway, I officially nominate this thing as the worst. That's all I got. W5BLT.
Well, Bill, I was thinking the same thing last night, that this could be the new low, and it's amazing. We just keep going for new lows, and I think we've had 2 or 3 in a row now that have been even worse than the previous one. So, yeah, I kind of agree with you. All right. Next up is Brian, K9AHO. Brian, whatever you want to talk about, go ahead. You may be the final comment tonight. Go ahead, from KE5I6.
Well, I agree with all of you. This is probably the worst so far. But the MST3K was its saving grace, a spoonful of sugar that helped the cyanide go down. I don't know. It was a nice counterpoint to the rest of the movie. A couple things I forgot to mention earlier. I think I really enjoyed the henchmen, the goons. They reminded me of the Foot Clan on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a little bit. I don't know why, but just that whole idea of the protagonists pausing to change into those uniforms because this will be stealth. They won't know that we're not one of them. That got silly. And then I think the other thing is the doctor in the freezing outfit. The protagonists just stumble in and, oh, hey, let me just tell you the whole story of how we're taking things over, and, hey, thanks for stopping by. It just wanders off. That was hilarious. And I was also, the movie reminded me a little bit of if a sci-fi film were a Mad Lib, and we were just borrowing pieces and parts from all other sci-fi shows that have ever been. Taking us to that final scene where the guy kind of wakes up and his limbs are all singed and everything. It kind of reminded me of Darth Vader, when he was created. Anyway, thanks for hosting this each week. I have a lot of fun, even when it is the worst of all. Appreciate it. K9AHO.
Elvis has left the building.
Well, Elvis hasn't quite left the building yet, but he's pretty darn close. Anyone else have any comments they want to bring to the net before I announce next week's movie? Please come with your call.
N5BB, very short.
Okay, well, this is interesting, and it happens to be coincidental. This was an accident, because sometimes I rearrange these movies around in order to, because of, they go off, they disappear, and then they reappear, and the links change and all of that, so sometimes I have to make movie substitutions. Interestingly, I think I did that this week and at some point down the road, and we have another MST3K. That wasn't intentional, that's just how it ended up, and it's the movie is called Moon 02 from 1969, so it's an MST3K. It's also from the studio dupe, so it should be a fairly decent copy for a change. So it should be worthwhile. But you can get the information over at Afterglow Movie, and I will, of course, send out tomorrow morning the synopses and link to the movies. Next week's movie, Moon 02. So there you have it. I don't know. I almost fell asleep during the net tonight. I did get sleep, but I'm a little tired. But today was the long run day. I'm running in the middle of nowhere. I'll have to tell you about some of my days here in Corpus and moving down here. They're quite different from Dallas. Very, very different. But at any rate, always entertaining. Thank you all for all your comments tonight. I really enjoyed it. It's always fun. I agree with Brian and Bill and everybody, Sean, and all the comments about doing this net. It is fun. I've always said Skynet is the most work, but this is the one I have the most fun with, is talking about bad movies, and your comments always are interesting. Even if I don't have something, you've always got something interesting to say. Okie dokie, well, I'm going to try and stay awake and watch a few minutes of Lost in Space. Third season, I'm not sure. Oh, I think this one is Space Colonists. Yeah, this is the one with the teenagers and the groovy episode, so if you want to see it, you can watch it. Well, they had more than one Space 50 episode. This is one of them. See you all next week. This is KE5I6. Clear.
KE5ICX, this is N5BB. Can you hear me, Tom?
Yeah, I've been moving back and forth between my radio and my cell phone with the echo link because it was cutting in and out. I'll check on it tomorrow to find out what the problem is. But go ahead.
Okay. Yes, I did see Calgon open his eye at the end, but I was trying to forget that. So you had to remind me. But do you really think another movie would be made just because he opened his eye at the end? Nobody would want to make another movie of this. One other comment I had, the love interest, you know, the two people, the man, Rob Brown was his real name, he was 6 years older than Sissy Cameron. He was 40 years old when this movie came out. She was 34. But when you look at the movie, she looks older. The way they made her up with that fluffy hair and her makeup and everything, she looks older than he does in this. He looks pretty young. So it's kind of weird that he was actually 6 years older than her. That's all I got. Another movie as we've blown up. Have fun. KE5. By the way, it was nice and clear here today after a week of nothing but clouds and rain. It's supposed to be clear and sunny again tomorrow also, in the 70s. KE5ICX, N5BB. See you, Tom.
All right, see you, Bill. Have a good evening, and we'll talk again. Yeah, it was. We had a little bit of rain this morning, and then it was gone, and so I went out for my daily run down on the south side, which is in the middle of nowhere. There's nothing out there. I rented someplace where it's busy from a place called Andy's Kitchen, which is where you had lunch or breakfast, and they run all the way out into like farmland and then run all the way back, which is interesting. But Holly Street is like a two-lane road all the way out near where the bird sanctuary thing is, and then you come back and it's a 5-lane road when you get in, and a freeway and everything else. That changes in that 5 miles there and back, 5 miles out and back, is quite remarkable. But there's all of that. Okay, I'm going to go. I'll see you all later. And again, had a lot of fun. KE5ICX, I'm clear.